Hello and welcome to this section, Other Ansible Resources and Areas, followed by the first video in this section, Troubleshooting Ansible. We're going to start with a video on troubleshooting Ansible, and this will be followed by the best practices. In this video, Troubleshooting Ansible, we're going to look at how we can troubleshoot SSH connectivity, how we can make use of the syntax checking options within Ansible, the use of step to step over individual tasks, the use of start at to start at a specific task, log path for logging information, and verbosity. In this video, we're going to actually start in the Ansible home directory on Ubuntu-C. Throughout the course, we've made extensive use of the debug module. Personally, this is one of my favorite means of troubleshooting Ansible when running playbooks. However, you may have problems prior to actually using Ansible in earnest. Mainly, where one of the main requirements of Ansible a working SSH implementation. This process falls outside of Ansible, but nevertheless, it is a useful approach for troubleshooting. What we're going to do is we're going to connect from Ubuntu-C to Ubuntu One. Okay, great. So that worked as expected. If, however, something was wrong, let's say, for example, that the permissions on the authorized key file were incorrect and were set to 777. If we were to log out and we try that again, we now get a prompt asking us for the password. In this case, we know exactly what the problem is, but how would we troubleshoot it if we don't? The SSH-V option is very useful here. Let's take a look at this from the client side. So we get a lot of useful information here, but we know it has exhausted all options and reverted to a password. But this doesn't really help our cause here. Let's take a look at this from the remote side. In a new window, connect to Ubuntu One using the username and password of root password. Okay, so you can see that I'm actually connected in there, and what we're going to do is we're going to run the SSH daemon ourselves with debug mode on a specific port. Okay, so that's the specifying port 1234. Now if we go back to our previous window, and this time when we connect, we're going to specify the port as 1234. And then if we go back to our previous window, there's a lot of information there, but in particular, we've got the line authentication refused, bad ownership or modes for file /home/ansible/.sh/authorized keys. So this has actually helped us identify the issue in question. This approach is very useful for a variety of SSH errors. I'm just going to Control-C out of this, and I'm going to fix the permissions. And if we go back to our other window, and we Control-C this, and try that again. Okay, brilliant. That's back to how it should be. Some other useful approaches. When running playbooks, there's a variety of subcommands that we can use. If we go back to one of our sections, for example, section 3, Ansible Playbooks Deep Dive, and we're going to go into blocks and revision 3. And what we're going to do here is we're going to run Ansible Playbook against the blocks playbook, but we're going to run this with a syntax check. In our case, the syntax is fine, but this is a nice little option you can actually do as you're creating your playbooks to verify the syntax. There's another great option called --step that allows you to step through the playbook. Let's see this in use. Okay, so you can see I've actually got the options there and I can choose for these. So I'm going to choose yes. And we'll choose yes on this one. And on this one, I'm going to choose no. And lastly, I'll choose no again. Okay, great. So you can see that's very, very useful if you have a playbook and you want to actually do this for troubleshooting, or you just want to actually execute some of the tasks without having to go down the route of using tags. If we've named our tasks, we can have the playbook skip direct to a certain task. For example, let's have it go straight to the install python-dns python. And in this case, we expected the failure, but you can see that this actually shows the power of starting at a specific task. By default, Ansible will not log executions, but this can easily be configured in the ansible.config file through log_path. Let's just edit that. And now if we run the playbook, we will have a corresponding log file output. Finally, the last thing I want to cover. Ansible has a verbose option that we can use. When using verbose, the verbosity can be increased in a variety of ways, ranging from a verbosity level of 1 to 4. For a verbosity level of 1, we would use -v. To increase to 2, we would use -vv. For 3 and 4, it would be -vvv and -vvvv respectively. How this varies, essentially, with verbosity level 1, the output data is displayed. Verbosity level 2, output and input are displayed. 3, you get additional information provided for connections to managed hosts. And 4 gives extra verbosity that includes connection plugins and scripts, as well as user context. I'm going to show a running example here with the highest verbosity for this blocks playbook. Okay, and you can see there we had a lot more information than we actually needed on this, but if you are troubleshooting and you've got problems, this can be exceptionally useful. Okay, that's it for this video. Please join me in the next one, Best Practices with Ansible.